In this video, we're going to begin to consider two linguistic processes, derivation and modification. Every language derives and modifies words using one or more of the grammatical tools we've considered in previous videos. But, as usual, how each tool is used differs from language to language. An idea of how these work in English provides a starting place for discussion of these differences later on. In general, derivation is the process of getting something from something else. For example, flour is derived from grain, and wine from grapes. The word has some more specific senses when one is talking about language. The one in focus here is the process of getting one part of speech from another. So, for example, the noun derivation is derived from the verb derive, by sticking ation on the end of it. While we can attach a variation of shun to any verb, we find that only some of these combinations result in acceptable English nouns, but that others are things we just don't say. Many nouns that end in shun mean either the process of doing the verb that they are derived from, or an instance of the action described by the verb. We can also derive nouns from verbs by adding ence, meant, and other suffixes. If we stick the suffix er on many verbs, we get another kind of noun. Some of these mean a person who does the verb in question, while others are used for machines. So sticking an er on build gives us builder, on play gives us player, and on freeze gives us freezer. We can also derive verbs from other parts of speech. We get verbs from many adjectives by adding the suffix n. So red gives us redden, soft gives us soften, and quick gives us quicken. There are also many adjectives that can't be turned into verbs this way. Can you figure out why this works with some adjectives and not others? There are also some nouns to which we can add n to get verbs, but this won't work with all nouns either. Many adverbs can be derived from adjectives by adding ly to the adjectives. In this way, we get quickly from quick, thoroughly from thorough, daintily from dainty, and vastly from vast. If instead of ly we add ness to adjectives, we get nouns instead of verbs. Adding ing to the end of verbs yields words that can be used as adjectives, nouns, or verbs. We usually infer which role these words are playing on the basis of where they occur. Of course, in English, we often derive one part of speech from another simply by moving words around in a sentence. English speakers routinely conscript adjectives to function as nouns, and even adverbs. Nouns and verbs change places with abandon. This makes English more fun to speak, but in some ways more difficult to learn, because there seems to be little rhyme nor reason in determining which derivations are permitted and which are not. When applied to the world at large, to modify something usually means to change an aspect of the thing in question, while leaving it recognizable as the thing one began with. In language, modifying a word with another word usually doesn't imply that the meaning is being changed. Rather, modifying a word with others means providing more information about the referent of the word being modified. By using modifiers, speakers help listeners limit their inferences to a smaller number of possibilities. For example, if I ask you to point to a car, you could point to any of the cars currently on the screen and be correct. If, however, I modify car with the adjective red and ask you to point to a red car, the number of possible inferences has gone from 4 to 1. A common and conceptually simple way to modify nouns in English is to put an adjective directly before the noun. Doing this indicates that the noun in question displays or embodies the trait conveyed by the adjective. Whenever an adjective is used to modify a noun, it is possible to place the noun and adjective in a sentence with is and come up with a true sentence. So from the phrase a red car, we can say a car is red. And from a fat cat, we can say a cat is fat. In English, we can also modify a noun by placing another noun directly in front of it. This kind of modification is very common and looks very much like the kind of modification performed with adjectives, but its structural simplicity hides a degree of semantic complexity that we are usually unaware of. We can begin to feel for this complexity by forming sentences that make the meanings of these pairs more explicit, as we did previously with the adjectives and nouns. The first thing to notice is that, for the most part, we can't simply stick is between the nouns in these pairs and get true statements. A car is not a train, nor is a cat an alley. A train car is a car that is part of a train. An alley cat is a cat that lives in an alley. There's nothing in the grammar of these pairs of nouns that indicates that the relationship between the nouns in the first pair is different from the relationship between the nouns in the second. How do we know what these relationships are meant to be, even when they are not stated explicitly? Other pairs of nouns are related in other ways. How does syrup relate to pancake? We can say that pancake syrup is syrup that is for putting on pancakes, or for eating with pancakes. How about the next pair, corn oil? Is it oil we eat with corn? No, it's oil that's derived from corn. How about the next pair, sun tea? Is it a tea we drink with the sun? Or is it derived from the sun? No, it's tea that's made using energy from the sun. So far we have 5 pairs of nouns that are related to each other in 5 different ways. Other pairs are related in other ways, and if you keep looking you can find a dozen or so kinds of relationships that these pairs can have. These don't include any and every possible relationship though. In particular, in English, it's always the first noun that modifies the second, and not the second that modifies the first. So when you say oil lamp, you're talking about a kind of lamp, not a kind of oil. And when you say lamp oil, you are talking about a kind of oil, not a kind of lamp. Also, these pairs don't express ownership or control of one element by the other. To express that kind of relationship, English uses other constructions. Pairs can also include nouns that were derived from verbs. Nouns derived from verbs with an ing suffix attached can be either the first or second member of the pair. Those that come first may function as actual adjectives or as something else. When they attribute an action to a following noun, the second word of the pair is usually stressed. So a sitting duck is a duck that is sitting. Running water is water that is running. And a moving van is a van that is moving. Stressing the first word of the pair conveys a different relationship. So a bowling ball is not a ball that is bowling, but rather a ball used for bowling. Similarly, an ironing board is a board used while ironing, and a moving van is a van used for moving one's possessions, even when it's standing still. Other relationships are possible as well. A shooting gallery is a place where one shoots. A fencing lesson is a lesson where one learns to fence. A smoking jacket is a garment worn while smoking. Can you think of a sentence that conveys what a coughing fit is? A cooking show? Chewing gum? A verb ending in an ing suffix can also be the second word in a pair of nouns. If we unpack these constructions, we often find that the first word is the direct object of the action indicated by the second. So for deer hunting, deer are the animals being hunted. In teeth brushing, teeth are what are being brushed. In window washing, windows are being washed. This is not always the case though. In lawn bowling, the lawn is not the thing being bowled, but the place where it is happening. Similarly, for window shopping, windows are not being shopped. With ball bearing, the ball is not being borne, but is rather the thing that is bearing the load. While these terms are quite normal in everyday use, others constructed in the same way just seem awkward, at least in some contexts. So while we might say we enjoy window shopping or detest babysitting, we wouldn't say we like basketball shooting or air breathing. And some of these combinations can function as verbs while others not so much. So while we might say we windsurf or babysit, we don't say we homecome or teeth brush. Why is it that we can say some of these, but others sound wrong? Many word pairs have been joined to become one word. For some of these compounds, the combination is other than the sum of its parts. A blackboard, for example, is not just a board that is black, but a writing surface that was standard in most classrooms in the 20th century. And a skylight is not a light in the sky or even light from the sky, but rather a window set in a roof that lets light in. Moonshine may be light from the moon, but the word is more likely a reference to clandestinely produced corn liquor than to celestial radiance. In many other instances, we cannot seem to decide if a combination consists of one word or two. For example, all of these spellings for combinations with the word pot are currently in use. Do any of them seem wrong to you? Why might some people prefer one spelling over another? In the next video, number 19, we'll consider more ways that nouns are modified in English, as well as how we modify verbs.